There's an episode recorded in the Bible which is generally considered to be the most shameful episode in Jewish history. It's also one of the most problematic episodes. It's the worship of the golden calf at the foot of Mount Sinai. How could a people who had witnessed such astounding miracles make an idol of an animal and worship it? These were the people who had experienced a year full of miracles back in Egypt, when the living God was delivering them from slavery. And it all culminated in them being trapped between a sea and the most powerful army in the world in those days, the Egyptian army, coming with chariots and swords and sabres. And the sea opened up before them. God, the living God, opened the sea, and the dry land appeared, and the sea stood up as a wall on either side of them, and they all walked through on the dry sea bed. Wonders and miracles. And it wasn't until the last Jew had emerged on the other side safely that the sea came crashing back in, drowning all of the Egyptian army, the most powerful army in the world. Absolute wonders and miracles, and make no mistake, that Egyptian army was out to kill every single man, woman and child of Israel. It was an absolute genocide that was planned, and the living God delivered them with wonders and miracles. And there is the problem. These are the people that make an idol of a calf of all things, and they worship it. What is going on? But it gets even more perplexing. How could Aaron, for instance, the older brother of Moses and the future high priest, how could he assist the people in making that idol? And speaking of Moses, why did he fail to return in the 40-day time period? And did Moses allow his anger to get the better of him, prompting him to smash the stone tablets that God himself had written? Did he lack self-control? Did he lose his temper? Moses, a holy man and the most humble man in the world in those days? Lots of questions. Well, Judaism has asked all these questions and many more. And they've arrived at some interesting ideas that I'd love to share with you. You don't have to accept them as fact. You can reject them or accept them, whatever you wish. But the point is this, that these stories and these ideas expose, uncover all kinds of truths that are hidden in the story and help us to explore ideas. And they have a wonderful way of inspiring our imaginations so that we enter into the story. And I do think that we should read the Bible as little children, don't you? We should make our studies, and we should study the language and the words and learn as much as we can, but we should never lose that ability to be a little child entering into a story that's filled with wonders, and the Bible is a book of wonders. So I want to share these ideas with you. And best of all, at the end of all of this, there is a priceless and eternal blessing hidden within the story, which it can be a blessing to us all. So let's take a closer look at the story. If you've got your Bible, open it up at Exodus chapter 19. Now you'll see between verses 3 and 8 that Moses explains the contents of the Torah which God is offering them. He recites the Ten Commandments, and the people express their readiness to accept this Torah with the unusual expression, Na'aseh v'nishma, which means, we will do and we will hear. Well, this is a strange expression. It reverses the normal order. We would generally say, well, tell us about it so that we can hear, and then we'll decide whether we'll do. But here the people say, we'll do whatever is about to be said. Now, this further complicates the story because it shows that the people had a deep, childlike trust in the living God who had delivered them from Egypt. Yet these were the people who make this golden calf. So were they trusting or were they distrusting? Back to the story. Moses ascends the mountain for a second time. in order for God to teach him the entire Torah and to be presented with the 2 tablets on which God himself had written the 10 commandments. It's generally understood that everybody expected a 40-day absence because the people became disturbed when Moses is apparently delayed a little later on. Now, here's something important for us all to keep in mind. Jewish tradition teaches that the voice of God thundered out the first 2 commandments to all the people, all the congregation. They all heard, every single person heard the first 2 commandments, and they were all filled with dread and covered their ears. Fearful, filled with dread at the sound of the voice, and they pleaded with Moses to be a go-between. Let God speak to you, Moses, and you pass on what is said to us. But the point is that all the people heard these first two commandments. Now, what were those 2 commandments? The first one was, you shall have no other gods before me, says the living God. Second one, you shall make no idols, says the living God. So bear these 2 things in mind. Now, a lot of important details follow in the following chapters, and we'll skip through to chapter 32. As the 40 days of his absence grows to a close, the people conclude that Moses isn't returning, and so they decide to replace not only him as leader, but also the God of Moses, the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the living God who had delivered them by miracles from the land of Egypt. And then, verse 4, with the help of Aaron, they form a golden calf and worship it. Verse 15 to 19, in the midst of the celebrations, Moses returns with the 2 tablets written by God. And upon seeing the idolatrous worship of the people, the idolatry, and some say even the murders that were going on in the pagan worship, Moses smashes the tablets in anger. These are the bare bones of the story. But note especially that the people broke the 2 primary commandments, the very ones that every single Jew had heard from the mouth of God himself. You see, it doesn't get any worse than this. It really is difficult to comprehend their actions, considering all that they had experienced, all that they had known. Who could have preferred a metal idol to the living God? If love didn't compel the people to worship and love him, surely fear would have compelled them to love him and worship him and bless him. They'd seen the fire, they'd heard the thunder, they'd seen the miracles, the year full of miracles, they'd seen the sea part, they'd seen their enemies overthrown right at the point when they were going to die. What is going on? So many questions. Was Moses at fault, staying up the mountain? Were the people wrong to grow impatient? Had God kept Moses too long up the mountain? So many questions. We'll look at these questions and many other things in the following videos.